Morning, Toby dog. Hey, buddy.
Hey, bud. How's it going? How's it going, my Toby dog?
Release the Kraken! We have a frosty one here this morning. It's like 5 degrees right now. So yeah, the ducks didn't want to really come out. I don't know if you guys saw this, but my mom was up this past weekend and she made this wreath for us and for the ducks. Pretty gosh darn adorable, right? So the other week I actually hosted a live chat where I gave you guys a chance to ask Toby and me a bunch of questions and try to give you a bunch of answers. It was amazing and kind of mind-blowing to see the turnout that came for that one half-hour conversation. And I tried to answer as many questions as I possibly could, but realistically I didn't get to most of them. And so I feel kind of bad that people took the time to ask those questions and I didn't give them all the answers. And so in today's video, what I'm gonna finally do is follow up on some of those unanswered questions that are floating out there. Love the camera though, bro, I can tell. You know how I said that it was like 5 degrees? I was actually wrong. It's actually -2. So one of the questions I got frequently, specifically, was about our pond and about whether or not we expect our pond to fill all the way up this year. The answer is, for this year, meaning 2019, no, the pond will absolutely not fill all the way up. But if we're talking about 2020, then most definitely. In fact, I'm willing to guarantee that that pond will be full come the end of spring. And if it's not, I guarantee that I will eat some of Toby's dog food. Now that's not to say that the water level is going to remain consistent and level the entire time. And that's not to say that we're going to have a pond full all summer, because there's still a good chance that it will drain out. But I guarantee that when all this snow and ice melts, we will have a full pond, or else I'm going to eat Toby's breakfast. Come on, Toby. So another question that I've received has been whether or not I've been able to get rid of the skunks on the farm. And honestly, the answer there is pretty much, I think. Ever since Toby arrived on the farm, I actually haven't seen any evidence of any skunks, any evidence of any raccoons, any evidence of any bobcats. I've seen some evidence of coyotes out in the pasture. So when I go walking along the pasture and like the forest line and through the pasture up there, I still see a lot of coyote prints.
So they're definitely out there. I think what's actually incredible about the coyotes is just to see how much smaller their footprint is compared to Toby's. So Toby and just his puppy paw print is like the biggest paw print I've ever seen. Toby, come. I want to show everybody your paw print. Come here, buddy. Come here. All right. I mean, look at this thing. It is massive. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. And so I look out on the pasture and I can see dog prints that are much smaller than that I know don't belong to any local dogs, and I know they belong to coyotes, but you know, it's amazing just to see the size of the print compared to Toby. Like, here you go. Here's some fresh Toby track right here. The coyote prints are like about half that size. So like in the last month, I have not physically evicted, whether by killing or trapping or any other means, any animals on the farm. But we haven't had any other animals on the farm ever since we got Toby, which I think just goes to show you the value of a livestock guardian dog and how just his presence and being around here will make a lot of predators and varmints head for the hills. In the Q&A, I also got several duck-related questions. You know, people asked what I fed them, which is primarily layer feed, supplemented with a few things like peas and niacin and brewer's yeast. A number of people also asked me if I've ever had any real sicknesses with the ducks, and so far I've been very lucky when it comes to that. I've had to deal with bumblefoot on a couple of occasions, and I've had to deal with a mysterious illness once with about 4 or 5 week old ducklings. But other than that, I have not had any real health issues, knock on wood. And so that's definitely been a positive with our ducks. And then specifically, there were questions about the coop and whether I had moisture problems. And so people were asking me if I have any moisture issues with buildup in here. I got 2 more eggs in here. And really the main solution I've had for dealing with moisture is this screen. So the water and the splashing all keeps relatively contained here. You can see I have a little bit of ice buildup over here, but come here, by the time I get to this part of the coop, it's actually all nice and dry, except for some of this duck poop I'm about due for another change of bedding. And so all my splashing gets contained there. And so I've found that by building this separate area just for moisture, it's just been an absolute great way to solve water problems within the coop. And a lot of times I'll use these rubber dishes as a way to deal with ice, because I can just break them up. Remember in the earlier videos where Toby was afraid of those stairs? He's totally mastered them now. Isn't that right, bud? There was also the question about whether or not my ducks go swimming in the winter. Even on the coldest days, like last year when we were like in the -25, -30 zone, the ducks were out there swimming anytime I put the water out. And in fact, I think the swimming is nice because it helps keep the water from freezing by having the movement of the ducks in the water. So, yeah, if you have ducks in extremely cold weather, they will still swim. The geese do the same thing as well. Another question I got during the chat was a viewer from up in Quebec asking me what advice I would have for a student who was wanting to become a farmer someday. Should they focus on studying farming, or should they study something else and do something else before farming, kind of like I did? And to be honest, I'm not sure I have a great answer to that question. You know, my life's journey brought me here to this spot where I'm in today, and it would not be possible to do the things that I'm doing and living the life that I'm leading if I hadn't done all the other things leading up to this moment. But at the same time, I'm not sure if it was the most efficient path. And so I guess my advice for somebody who's interested in being a farmer, or my advice for somebody who's just interested in doing something that they're passionate about, it really is to follow your passion.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have dreams.
Yeah, just as long as you don't believe in them too much.
You know, when I went to college, I actually went to art school.
You know, over and over again I say, we don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
And that was a completely non-traditional path to doing where my career ultimately went, as well as a very non-traditional path for being a farmer. But I'm very happy with all the things that I learned along the way.
And so my advice to somebody who is, say, in high school or college age is focus on doing what you're passionate about. Don't do something because you think your parents think you're supposed to do it, or don't do something because you think that's the thing that's going to make you the most money, and don't do something because you think that that's going to be the thing that really gets you to the place that you ultimately want to be at. If you're not passionate about it, don't do it. That's not to say that there's not going to be some sort of downside or something you don't like about any type of work that you're pursuing or any sort of career that you're studying for. There's always going to be parts of the job that you don't like. That comes with the deal. But it's much more about the big picture idea, and does that idea get you excited? Does that idea get you into a place where you really want to do that thing? Ask yourself those questions. And if you're considering a major and trying to say, yeah, I want to be a farmer, yeah, I want to do something else, yeah, go study organic gardening, go study, animal and veterinary sciences, go study agriculture, or heck, just even drop out of school and go work on a farm somewhere. Like, all of those things are going to be good life experiences that are going to ultimately take you to the place you want to be. I think the significantly more important decision is, number one, that you have the passion, like I said, and number two, are you willing to work hard? Because regardless of the course of study you go for, regardless of what you're trying to pursue, being willing to just sort of grind it out, being willing to give it your all, being willing to put your full heart into it, that is the more important factor. And so for a student out there, that would be my advice, which probably doesn't meet the muster of most guidance counselors, but hey. Oh look, Toby's in the garden. Hey buddy, how'd you find yourself in there, huh? Yeah, wrong time of year for that. This time of year, I don't care if you're in there, but if this was springtime, Allison would be pitching a fit right about now. Toby, come. Let's see if you can do it. Yes! Good boy, yes! You're such a good pup! I've just been blown away with how quickly he's been able to learn basic commands. People always talk about Maremas and livestock guardian dogs as being horrible to train, but I'm not going to ever try to teach him to do fancy tricks like shake and roll over. But for the basics of come, sit, stay, which I believe are really important skills for any dog to have, he's doing a great job. He's still not mixing it up with the geese just quite yet. I'm working on that. I'm building up to it. You can see though, the geese have gone on high alert ever since he came near them. We'll give Toby his private time. And then another question that came up, and I've addressed this in other videos, but I feel like it keeps coming up, so I gotta address it again, is when do I think I'll be a full-time farmer? And the answer is I'm just still not quite sure. I still feel like I'm quite a ways away from having a model of farming that could support both Allison and me in terms of providing us with a livable income. Even with Allison's job, I still think we got a ways to go. And so until I can get that equation balanced properly, I don't foresee myself becoming a full-time farmer. But what I do see myself doing is continuing to work on the farm, continuing to scale it up, continuing to grow things in a way that's profitable year after year after year, and get it to a point where it's of a size and scale that it could support us. And so, I mean, realistically, if I'm gonna guess, I'm gonna say that's probably 2 or 3 years out at least. I also think it's gonna be recognizing too that part of that balancing act is gonna have elements to the farm business that aren't just purely about farming. So for example, am I doing some sort of value-added product like making goose charcuterie? Speaking of which, there was another question that I was asked that was very specific to how many goose do I expect to raise next year? And well, I'm still doing the math and crunching the numbers, and I will say that a certain element of it is going to depend on how many geese we're able to hatch. But this past year, so for 2019, we raised 31 geese. We slaughtered 26 of them. We still have 5 of them that are going to be our breeding stock for next year. My hope is that I'm going to be able to hatch out several of those geese in the spring and be able to raise them up and either sell them as guardian geese or sell them as meat geese. I also plan to buy more goslings again and raise them up. I might experiment with some other breeds beyond just the Pilgrim and Emden. But what it really comes down to is whether or not I'm going to be able to find a way to reliably process them. As you guys might recall, we had some issues with processing the geese that we raised here this past fall. And so I'm still working on trying to find a solution for 2020. That really will dictate how many I do. But that said, if you wanted an actual number, I'm gonna project somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 40 to 100 geese will be raised in 2020 as I try to scale the goose operation up a bit. Oh, look at this. What's going on here? I don't even know what to make of this. Toby, do you know what to make of this? Okay, that's really weird because the two white geese are the two males. Ordinarily, if that was a gray goose on the bottom and a male on top, I'd have a much better sense of what was going on there. I do not know why he was using that other goose as a surfboard, but that was kind of odd. I feel like I have so much to learn when it comes to animal behavior. It's one of my favorite parts of farming, which, by the way, was another question that somebody asked in the chat. There was somebody who asked me if we intend to get more animals or any different types of animals next year, and if we intend to get cows. And I would say that for next year, we actually have no plans to add any new animals. Between the ducks, the geese, the chickens, and Toby Dog here, we have no intention of taking on any other animal projects. Quite frankly, I feel like our hands are full right now, and it's not about adding more, but rather getting better at the things that we have. And so we're gonna put our energy in 2020 onto focusing on things here on the farm, potentially building more infrastructure to help us scale up, but not adding any sort of new animals or new skills that we have to learn. It's gonna be all about getting better at the things that we've already started doing. Toby, come. Yes, good boy. Yeah, you're such a good puppy dog. And then I think the last question I'm gonna answer is, do you always sit outside in the snow? And that question kind of cracks me up. I definitely spend a lot of time outdoors here on our farm. Even in the winter, I spend a lot of time out here doing chores and working. But no, I do not spend all of my time out here. The reason I recorded that live stream and that chat outdoors was because I wanted to include Toby in the mix, and frankly, we don't let Toby inside our house. It's like one of those boundaries we've created, and so I did it outside, and so that's why I was sitting outside in like 10-degree weather answering questions on the internet. And I'm out here right now recording this because frankly, shooting videos requires a lot of thought about lighting. The videos can look really crummy if you shoot them indoors, and I find that it takes a lot more work to light a video and make it look good when you're shooting it indoors. When you're out here with Mother Nature and you got the power of the sun behind you, it's so much easier to just flip on your camera and start yakking away. And because I'm a guy who doesn't have a ton of time, and you know, these videos are coming on top of my work here on the farm, on top of working a full-time job not related to the farm, and on top of just everything else with my personal life. The efficiency of shooting outdoors really speaks to me, and so that's why you see most of our videos being me outside, because it's actually easier to shoot me outside, if that makes any sense. I did want to offer up a word of thank you to everybody who participated in that chat, as well as everybody who offered up a super chat, including these folks right here, during that live stream. It really means a lot to me, and I know I actually screwed up a little bit, and I'm a little embarrassed by this, and not paying a close enough attention to the screen, and knowing that a super chat actually came in, and thanking everybody for it. I really screwed that one up, and so I'm sorry about that. But I really do appreciate that support. I also really appreciate the support of all my patrons on Patreon. If you guys want to help out with that, it's really helping us fund projects like the repairs on our barn. I will leave a link to our Patreon account down below if you want to ever help out. So that's it. That is some answers to some unanswered questions. Hopefully I'll do another live stream in the near future, guys, and you can ask me even more questions. But until then, why don't you watch this video right here? Just click on it. It's such a good story. You're gonna have so much fun watching it. You know you want to see it. Even if you've seen it again, just click that button and watch that video. And I'll see you guys over there. Thanks.